Hi, hello. Thanks so much for tuning into the Michelle Got Goals podcast, episode number 3. On this podcast, we discuss the journey called entrepreneurship. So, how has your week been? Let me tell you a little bit about mine. Oh, before I get started, I just want to give you a heads up. I am recording on my screen and porch today, and since we are out here, you might hear some, noise from some insects or whatever's going on in my backyard. Or maybe since I do live in the city, um, you might hear an ambulance go by or police, whatever it might be. It happens, but it shouldn't be too disruptive, okay? So, again, welcome to my podcast. How was your week? Let me tell you about mine. Have I been working towards my goals? Always on my mind. You know how that goes. So, I know one of my goals from last week was to keep working on my LinkedIn course that I bought. It's this 6 or 8 week LinkedIn course that I bought. There's a module that's dropped every day, not every day, every week, and you work on it at your own pace. And let me tell you, it remains on my to-do list. I'm a little mad about it because I know LinkedIn is a valuable tool to make, professional connections and to get your name and your company name out, but I just haven't found the time to work on this LinkedIn course. Of course, in the beginning, it absolutely helped me to redo my LinkedIn profile, but I didn't pay all this money just to have a pretty profile. I need more than that. I need people to find me and work with me. So it's absolutely still a goal on my list to complete this LinkedIn course. I do know there are statistics out there about people buying courses and not finishing them. And but let me tell you, I paid too much money not to finish this one, okay? And it's too important. So LinkedIn still remains on my to-do list. And but I have been keeping steady with my networking goals, with this being not winter time, summertime, and us being able to go out and meet in person. I think it's just really important to make those organic connections. So there are a couple of groups which networking events I have been going to consistently these past weeks. So I am meeting people are recognizing me. I am always that, oh, are you still in logistics, girl? And I'm like, yep, I'm still in logistics. Let me tell you about it. So, yes, networking is still pretty, it's keeping me busy. It's one of my main goals as well. And it does help with my LinkedIn, of course, because whenever I go out and meet new people, the next morning before work, I will look them up on LinkedIn. And I usually will send out a short, hey, it was nice to meet you yesterday. Hopefully we'll see each other at the next networking event, type of note. And connect that way. So I've been going to in-person networking events. I actually also attended a networking event via Zoom in Minneapolis, which is kind of funny, but why not take advantage of everybody having virtual networking events as well, because otherwise you would never catch me at a networking event in Minnesota, right? So I did jump on that call as well and made some connections. It was interesting. It was a good group of people. But as I mentioned before, I'm not a big networker. It doesn't come easy to me, even though I seem to be faking it well at times. And it also always depends on the group and the organizer. I've been to a networking event not too long ago. The organizer, she didn't even have people introduce themselves. It was just a sit-down dinner type. It was just a weird event, and I do not really plan on going back. But then I have these events that I go to on a regular basis. The organizer, he's really on top of things, and he makes sure that people are included and are involved. So it all really depends on the organizer of the event, how well. And then I guess, I'm sure there are people, you have to make the best of an event anyways, right? So it's all within you. But it also, to me, there are better organizers than others. So that helps as well. So yes, I've been staying on top of my networking event. I make connections for LinkedIn that way as well. It opens up a totally new stream of information showing up in my LinkedIn feed, different companies, different connections. So it's interesting and fun, and of course, very helpful to make these in person organic connections. So that's something I continue to work on until COVID tells us we cannot meet in person. And because we shall see how winter and fall goes here in Michigan, right? So, so that's what I've been working on: networking, making new connections, seeing old and new faces. And then, because I do work during the day and I cannot make sales calls, and it's a major hiccup in my growth for my company, always has been. And I think it's really one of the catalysts that made me start, first of all, my accountability group earlier this year, where entrepreneurs meet every 2 weeks to keep each other accountable. And I think sales is really why I'm just not where I should be at this point, because I'm afraid. I have a total blockage when it comes to just picking up the phone and making cold calls. And since I work full time, it's easy for me to say I don't have time for it anyways. But I do feel if I was not that afraid of sales, I would be doing better in my business. I do send out my newsletter on a regular basis, but that's not all. Just just receiving, just sending out a newsletter. It's not very active. It's just a newsletter. Some people click on it, some don't. So it's not the best connection. They just see consistency. So I do think it helps that people see that I'm a legit company, even though they never heard of me before. But if you consistently have a newsletter with somewhat valuable or interesting information, not just pushing your offers, hopefully it sets me up to where people know that I'm here to help, that I have a service that might benefit their company. Of course, I get click rates and all that. This might be for another podcast. You can tell me. I do wait for my results and see what my click rate is. At this point, I feel like there's something weird going on with this one contact. This one contact seems to be clicking on everything on my newsletter each and every time, that at this point I'm thinking it's her company's computer system somehow. I don't know. Who clicks on every newsletter every single time, clicks on everything, the offers, the Facebook, the Twitter? It's just weird to me. So, but this one contact always clicks on everything. It's kind of weird to me. But okay, so you might know more about these clicking results from the newsletter than I do. But I think just sending out a newsletter doesn't get me sales. That's just what it is, right? And I do not have the time to make the calls myself during the day because I do work full time. So I asked a friend if she would be interested in making these cold calls on a commission base. And so she came over. I explained to her what my business is and what we offer, and she was pretty good. And she made a couple of calls, and she got some warm contacts. And whenever she would get somebody to agree to send information on my services over, I'm the one who sent out the email and made the follow-up. And but it also made me think about myself. I should not be this afraid to make calls, right? It is just silly. And I do have a vacation coming up, so one of my goals for that vacation for sure is to make these calls myself. And because we're still waiting for the episode where I tell you guys that I sold my first online course, right? I mean, that's the goal here. Michelle, make some sales. I mean, so yeah. So I used to I don't know, what do you call these companies, these pyramid companies, where you have an upline. So I sold this stuff, and my upline back then gave me the sheet, because back then already I wasn't the greatest in cold calling or sales or whatever you want to call it. So she gave me the sheet, and it was 100 no's because sales is all about consistency. You need to consistently reach out and call, and even if it's 100 no's, the 101st reply might be a yes, right? It's a game. And I need to stop being afraid. And you let me know, drop me a note on Instagram. How do you do with your sales? Do you have to do cold calls, or is your business structured that everybody just flocks to you? I mean, really, that's one of my biggest hangups. And that's why I'm building all this around it. I think my accountability group and now this podcast to keep reminding myself of my goals and what I need to do in my business to, get further. So, but like I said, this podcast is about the journey called entrepreneurship and what all we do to get there, get to where we want to be. And yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. What are you doing to make those business goals? Let me know, and we will chat again next week. Thanks so much.